I'm assuming everyone that's here either has a vagina or knows someone that has a vagina or just wants to learn a little bit more about vaginas. So today is going to get really personal. When I was about 19, I woke up one morning and things just weren't right. I went to a walk-in clinic because I was experiencing some pretty severe pain in my vagina, burning. I just felt awful. And the doctor I saw told me I had a yeast infection, gave me a prescription and sent me on my way. And that's what kicked off my journey. I took the prescription, things cleared up for a bit, and then the next time I tried to have sex, I wound up with the same symptoms. Burning, pain, redness, just feeling raw all over. I then went to see doctor after doctor. I got referrals to gynecologists, dermatologists, internal medicine guys. Every month it was just a nightmare. For the better part of 10 years, I battled what I assumed were chronic and recurrent yeast infections. Over and over again, I would just sit in my doctor's office in tears, begging them to tell me why this was happening to me. In my mind, it didn't make sense why an otherwise perfectly healthy woman in her 20s was in the doctor's office sometimes twice a month for years. Before I was diagnosed, I spent every night researching anything I could find, and this went on for a really long time. I reached out to anyone I could find on the internet to ask them about chronic infections, yeast, pH, bacteria, hormones, you name it. I even tried to get myself enrolled into a clinical trial doing research on women who suffered from recurrent vaginitis because I had no idea what was going on. It's actually kind of hard for me to talk about this sometimes because I think that medical conditions that can't be seen or necessarily discussed properly are often overlooked or ignored by the medical community and not taken seriously. Anyways, after a few years without answers, I became very anxious. I think what I was experiencing was a low-grade depression. My relationships with boyfriends suffered. I stopped having sex for long periods of time because I was so afraid of the pain. I was really tired all the time. Now, also at this time, I tried a lot of treatments. Some were really good, some were really bad, but I felt like I still wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. I knew deep down that something was wrong with me, and I was just told, some women have to deal with this forever, which is pretty lame, right? I know how devastating this process is for women, how scary it is, and how alone you feel. Why can't I be normal? Why can't I be okay? And then you feel guilty for feeling that way because you let it take over so much of your brain power, your thoughts and emotions, and your daily activities. I could accept what was happening to me, but not why it was happening to me. I was tested for diabetes, lupus, HIV, every STI, bowel issues, blood sugar issues, autoimmune diseases, you name it. Everything came back negative. Fast forward to about 5 years ago, I actually met with a naturopath who specialized in women's health, and she was one of the first people to give me a different perspective on what was going on. She said sometimes women suffer recurrent infections or infection-like symptoms because they have too much estrogen. We know this because of estrogen dominance, and we sometimes see this in the case of women who take birth control pills. But sometimes in rare cases, she said women can have too little estrogen or a relative estrogen deficiency. Now, women have estrogen receptors all over our body, and if the vaginal tissue doesn't receive enough estrogen, or the estrogen receptors in the vaginal tissue are weak, which, I'm going to talk about why that happens in another episode, the cells can't mature properly, and the lining of the vagina becomes frail and easily traumatized. So things like friction from sex or changes throughout the menstrual cycle really can trigger pH imbalances and allow things like yeast and bacteria to grow. The thing that no one really tells you is that birth control can also turn off these receptors, and in some women, they don't really ever turn back on. And depending on what type of birth control you're on, can also have a bigger effect on estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And we really can't forget about testosterone here. It's really important. My vagina had basically become menopausal in a sense because it wasn't getting enough hormonal support. Anyways, this cycle of pain on and off, compiled with what I thought were still recurrent infections, continued for a long time. It wasn't until I was on vacation in Italy that things got extremely bad. I woke up with pain one morning that didn't go away. I treated myself for an infection, and that only made things worse. I felt like things got progressively so bad in the months following that I couldn't sit down, I couldn't wear underwear, and no doctor could tell me why it was happening. The only answers I could get were, we have no idea. They gave me gabapentin for nerve pain, a numbing cream for when I tried to have sex, and an antidepressant, so I didn't have to obsess about it anymore. In case you're wondering, I promise this story gets better. Since then, I've been fortunate enough to meet gynecologists in Arizona, Seattle, New York, Washington, and I'm happy to say that there is a light at the end of all of this. Vaginas are really tricky. There is no magical formula that works for any one woman, but we can't give up. There are a lot of good treatments and a lot of good medications and lifestyle changes that we can make that allow these things to be managed. This year was the best year of my life. I had sex without pain for the first time, and I'm 31 years old. I managed to meet one of the top guys in vulvovaginal disorders in DC this year, and let me just say the testing has evolved a lot over the last 10 years. I am so happy to see that there are people out there doing research, developing studies, and looking into this condition. I had heard of vulvodynia before. I knew what it was, but I didn't really have all of the typical symptoms. But it was the first time I had really started to look into pelvic floor disorders. Many doctors don't know what cause vulvodynia issues. It's sort of a blanket term for a lot of things. There are congenital reasons you could have vulvodynia. You could have noticed it come up during puberty. There can also be acquired reasons. There's provoked and unprovoked vulvodynia. There's women who have had the pain as long as they can remember. And there's also women who can remember very specific times in their life that seemed to trigger the onset. Anyways, I had a hormone issue that caused vestibulitis and pelvic floor dysfunction from years of tight muscles. I had no idea that hormones could be so wild, and I finally had an answer for why this happened to me and what I could start to do to manage the symptoms. Now, I've been going on for a while now, but I just want to end by saying that the vagina is really the most intimate part of a woman's body. Our sense of self as a human is so interconnected to that part. There's a really big mental aspect to women's vaginal health, and many of these issues affect women on so many levels, not just physically. So I hope that this provides a little context for those that are interested. Obviously, I'm fascinated by this space and how women's health is evolving, and I'm really looking forward to bringing you along the journey. I'm also sending my love to any woman out there whose vaginas are hurting right now.